Dalit. I'm not sure. I haven't been on top of it, but it's the Bechayros. There's the Bechayros over here. There's a Kereisos in. And this over here as well. So we learned in the Mishnah 36 things that are Chayav Karas, and we said the significance of that was that if they're done, the Shogeg would be Chayav Achatas on each one. That was the significance. So one of those things was Ha'echal Chelav, someone that eats forbidden fat. The Tana Rabbana, let's see, we're 6 lines from the top. 4. Tana Rabbana was Tana in a Bais, Kol Chelav Shar V'Kesef Eis Leise Chelav. This is a pasuk in Parshas Tzav. It says that it's forbidden to eat the fat of an ox, a sheep, or a goat. Now, why does it have those animals in there? L'chayav al kalachas v'achas div Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel holds that if you eat the fat of an ox, a sheep, and a goat, those are separate prohibitions. It says don't eat the fat of ox, a sheep, and a goat. So therefore you're going to be chayav achatas for each one. However, chachamim are min chayav alachas. Chachamim say no. You only chayav one. Now, the Gemara suggests, what's the reason for this? It says, name of B'haka maybe the machlokes is the following. Rabbi Shmuel Savrein like an alav shebachlolos. Rabbi Shmuel says like an alav shebachlolos. Rabbi Savri ain't like an alav shebachlolos. You see, a prohibition in the Torah it says do not do this. Let's say the Torah would say do not violate any of the laws of the Torah. Would that you get malchus for that as well? No, that's a general prohibition. So it's called alav shebachlolos. Alav shebachlolos also includes when there's one do not, but in there it includes do not do this, that, and the other thing. It's called the alav shebachlolos, or a pasuk that we learn many things out of. L'seichel al adam. That's alav shebachlolos. It's a general. Kolos means general. It's a general prohibition. So we have a slight problem here because what's happening is Rabbi Shmuel says like an alav shebachlolos. You get malchus for each one of those details in there when they're committed. And the Rabbanan say, ain't like an alav shebachlolos. The problem is, why is there any malchus at all? Rabbanan said you get malchus once. Rashi mentions that and he doesn't explain his answer.
So theoretically, we should be able to trace this to one of Rabbi Yishmael's principles?
I'm not sure. It's a din in malchus. It doesn't have to do with...
No, his what he left out from it.
Yeah, but he happens to have an opinion that like an alav shebachlolos. I don't know if it's one of his ways of interpreting, or does he get it from one of those interpretations? But the Gemara is going to reject it. The Gemara doesn't like this. The Gemara says, "Liyolam savar Rabbi Shmuel ain't like an alav shebachlolos." Doesn't want to get into anyone holding that there's malchus for alav shebachlolos. No one really holds that. So why over here does Rabbi Shmuel say that you get malchus 3 times? Shani hachadam yasser l'kroi. This is different. We have extra psukim. Here the Torah is telling me clearly that you have to get malchus for the individual prohibitions of an ox, a sheep, and a goat. What are the psukim? It says, Nichtiv kra kol chelav leise chelav. Let it say, don't eat any fat. Shar v'kesev eis lamali. Why does it have to say an ox, a sheep, and a goat? Shma min alachalik. It's coming to tell me that you get separate malchus for each one. Different dishes at the buffet. The guy walks around, a little of this, a little of that, and the other one, there's malchus for each one of those tastings, if it's a gazayas. What did the Rabbanan do? The Rabbanan said you don't get malchus for each one. The pasuk could have been written much shorter. Why do you have those extra words? The Rabbanan like ksiv, shar, v'kesev eis. The Rabbanan say those are not extra. If it didn't say shar kesev eis hava amina, that's an abbreviation there, hey aleph, hava amina, afilu chelav chaya b'mashma. I would have thought that forbidden fat of a goat, of a deer, of a wild animal, bison, I don't know about bison, something like that, you would also be chayiv. We know it's not so. You're only chayiv. It's only prohibited, forbidden fat from a domestic animal. So l'hachik kasav shar kesev eis. That's why it says an ox, a sheep, and a goat. L'meimra the chelev shar kesev eis hu da'aser aval the chaya shari. It's coming to tell me that the forbidden fat of a wild animal is permitted. I said forbidden fat. Because I'm translating chaylev. It's coming to tell me that the fat of a wild animal is permitted. Okay.
What do you have to say? Kesef.
Very good. The Gemara is going to discuss. The Gemara asks Shaper Karmelei. You hear the question? One of them could have done it. But, okay, let's hold it. The Gemara asks that the Rabbanan have a good point. The chaylev of a chaya is permissible. If it would have said just plain the way we were suggesting with for Rabbi Yishmael, that it would say kol chaylev leise chaylev, we wouldn't have known that. We would have thought all chaylev is prohibited. So, this is a very important point. What's the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael now? So it says, Alahainu time with the Rabbi Yishmael, rather the reason for Rabbi Yishmael is the Kasavram Kin Lichtav Kol Chaylev Shar Leise Chaylev. Still didn't need all of it. Could have just said Kol Chaylev Shar. All fat of an ox is forbidden.
But then you would have thought specifically the ox, because you don't have a claw.
Right. Yeah. The Gemara is going to go through each one. So Kesevei is Lamali. Why do I need Kesevei? Shema min alachalik. It must be that why does it say a sheep and a goat as well? It's coming to divide it up, that you get 3 times malchus. 3 times malchus. There was a guy that he heard that an Aveira is very enjoyable. So then I heard the bigger the Aveira, the more enjoyment it is. So he looked in the Torah, what's a big Aveira? It's a chaylev. So those days they used to have the candles were made from fat. So he takes the candle and he takes a bite and he says, I don't get what they're talking about. I don't understand.
Didn't see modern day Hebrew.
For Rabbanan, what did the Rabbanan do? Rabbi Shmuel's right. Could have just said sure. Would have told us not that it doesn't need to be that a wild animal is permissible. The Rabbanan Savri Yikasav Rachmana Kol Chaylev Shar. If it would have only said that Havamin and Neilef Shar Shar Mi, it says Sinai, but it's supposed to say Shabbos. It says we'll learn an ox from Shabbos. Just like by Shabbos, it says you have to let your animals rest. You can't have your animals working. It's like no one in your family can work, not your slave. Also, your animals need to rest on Shabbos. So, Ma Gabi, it's supposed to be Shabbos. But you can't have any work done by your other animals, even if they're not. It says a bird as well. Even if it's not an ox, even if it's not domesticated. I would have said, look, I see shar by Shabbos, and it means more than shar. It's just a general word. So I would have said the same thing applies to chaylev of shar. It's just a general term. So lahachi kasav rachmana shar v'kesef eiz lameimr dahani asar aval chayav oif shari. That's why it has to say all 3. When it says shaper kamalei, that's a good point. What did the Rabbanan do? It has. What does Rabbi Shmuel do? The Rabbanan just said why it needs to say all 3. The Rabbi Shmuel needs the 3 to be extra. Elahaina time. What's the reason for Rabbi Shmuel the kasavar? He holds nichtav kol chaylev kesev leisei chaylev. Let it just say all forbidden fat, all fat of a sheep you can't eat. And that by Shabbos it doesn't say sheep. So inami kol chaylev eiz leisei chaylev. It could have said all fat of a goat. So don't eat. Shar v'kesef v'eiz lamali. Why does it need all 3? So it's to tell me that you get malchus for each one individually. Rabbanan Savri. Rabbanan say 1 second. Each one of these has its own quality that I would have said if it only said one of them. I would have said that there's something specific about that one and not the other ones. Ikas of chaylev kesev. If it would have said just the fat of the sheep, havamina chaylev kesev aser. I would have said it's only that. And shar v'eiz is shari. I would have said that the goat. The ox and the goat is permissible. The chitema mayolme the kesev. You would ask, why? What's significant about the sheep that that's the only fat that's forbidden? It says mishum dinisraba ba'alya, because the fat has an extra portion over there that goes on the altar, the alya. It says kedetana Rabbi Chananya. I think it's supposed to be Rabbi Yossi ben Chananya. I don't see it corrected here. Lama mana kaso ve'murim b'shar ve'murim b'kesev ve'murim be'ez d'ksevach b'char shar. The pasuk says, b'char shar ve'b'char kesev the Bechoreis, that you don't redeem it. It's holy, the firstborn of all of those animals. You don't. It's not a. It's brought as a sacrifice. So, when it says that pasuk, it says, "But firstborn of an ox, the firstborn of a sheep, the firstborn of a goat." It has to list all of them out. Why does it need to list all of them out? So it says tzrichi. It's necessary to list all of those. The of shar, if it would have only said the ox, because what are we doing over here? What are we trying to bring? Trying to bring that it couldn't have just said the forbidden fat of a sheep, because it would have thought only a sheep. Why would we only thought sheep is the fat's forbidden? It said no, there's something unique about it. Watch. We bring from another source. It's a very similar source where we have also an ox, a sheep, and a goat that are mentioned. We asked, why do we need all three? So we go through it over there. That answer over there is going to come back to us and tell us why we need all three. Because the of shar, if it would only say of an ox, have mina kesef ve'ez layalfinon mine, I don't learn a sheep and a goat from it. Would have said, look, when you bring an animal, a cow or an ox, same family, right? A bull or an ox, to the altar, so that comes along with a lot of wine. Right? A lot of wine, half a hin. So it said, oh, that's over there. It's forbidden to eat the meat of the ox, of the bechar. It's a sacrifice, and so that back to us. We would say that it's only the ox that would have that prohibition of fat. Nichtav rachmana bekesef. So let it just say bekesef and elef shor ve'ez minay, and then we'll learn the ox and the goat from the sheep. So 1 second. The sheep has an extra portion that goes on the altar. That's why it's stricter. What's the extra portion? There's a fat tail on a sheep that's put on the altar. That tail is not put on the altar by the other animals. Only by the sheep. So we'd say, oh, the sheep is the one that has these laws. So let it just write by the goat, and I would understand there's nothing special about a goat if the goat has these laws. Same thing should apply to everything else. It happens to be that a goat is brought for a korban if an individual worships idols. So that would be, we'd say, oh, that's a unique animal. So it says minchad le'alfinan. We've gone through gemaras like this before. We won't be able to learn the other animals from one individual animal. So what do? We'll take two animals. We'll use the common factor, and we'll learn the third one out of that. And it's then why does it say the third one? That's coming to teach me some extra special halacha. It says nichtav tarti v'neilef chadam mitarti. Let it say two, and we'll learn one from the two. Heidein neilef. Interesting word. Which one it would be? I guess. Which one would be logical? Which one should we learn? So we say sure. We'll learn mikesef eis. We'll learn the ox from the sheep and the goat. In other words, it would only say sheep and goat, and we're going to learn the ox out of that. Gemara says, 1 second, Islahin Pircha, there's a problem with that in the common denominator between a sheep and a goat. Those two animals are usable for a korban Pesach, but an ox is not. So we'd say, oh, there's something special about those animals. So let's do it different. Well, the two animals that we use is an ox and a goat, and we'll learn the sheep out of that. Islaim Percha, there's a problem with that as well. An ox and a goat are the animals that are used for if someone worships idols. A goat, he brings if it's an individual. If it's a community, then it's an ox. So we'll say, oh, that's special animals. Those are unique. Don't say the goat, and we'll learn from the ox and the sheep. Islaim Percha, over there's a problem as well. So, Malashar v'kesef shken yesh beitzad riboy eitzel hamizbeach, it's supposed to say. I believe this means, it's the base here. That most of the sacrifices are brought from this. I guess that's the pshat. Unless you have another pshat. So hilkach le'alfim adadi. Okay, we're left that you can't learn any of them from one from the other. The Gemara concludes, Shaper kamri lei. If that's the case, then the Rabbanan have a good point. What do you mean that those short kesef is extra? It's not extra. If it would have said one, you want to know the others. Even if it would have said two, you want to know the third. So Le'elam time of the Rabbi Yishmael kedamrinan mi kara. Reason for Rabbi Yishmael is, as we said right at the beginning, the pasuk says kol chelev, and it didn't have to say any of the animals. Dim kein nichtav kol chelev v'lishtik. Could have just said that, and that would have been enough. The Gemara says, "Whoa, we just went through this. You can't say that." My amrit, hide the kasav shor v'kasav ezlam shechelev chaya. We had the Rabbanan already said that if it doesn't say shor kasav ez, I would have thought that the fats of a wild animal are also prohibited. It has to tell me shor kasav ez that it's only domesticated animals that have the forbidden fat. Hakikas of kra binyana dekaj. See, he says like this. I wouldn't have thought that forbidden fats are that the fats are forbidden on a wild animal, because this pasuk that forbids the chelev is over there. It says that the animal, the fat goes to Hashem. It's a sacrifice. These are only the holy animals, the animals that are brought as sacrifices. If that's the case, there's no wild animals that are brought as sacrifices. So automatically, the pasuk doesn't need to tell me which animals they are, because davar halamid minyanai, I would learn from context that it's only sacrifices, that it's only domesticated animals. V'davar halamid minyanai. Okay. The Gemara says, okay, Rabbi Shmuel has a good point. What does the Rabbanan hold? Mechlal the Rabbanan sabri lo yalfin davar halamid minyanai. The rabbis don't hold that you don't look at the context when you read the verses. The Gemara says, "Lie, it's not so." The Rabbanan also hold that. The Kuli Alma, sorry.
There's a pasuk. I'm just looking at the pasuk. It says, "Kol ochel chelev min habehema sheyakiv mena yishel Hashem v'nichasa nefesh hasvasvayim."
That's the following pasuk.
Right.
And that's the proof that this is kachim.
No. Ach b'chor shor b'chor kesel b'chor ez l'sif the kodesh Shem as don't tizog nizov as chavuk t'kir.
That's in Dvarim. That's in Rei. That's a week's parsha. You're reading the Kol Behema is Vayikra Zion. This parsha's top.
So where does it say kesel for ez? Which
That's
is the
in
pasuk?
Vayikra Gimel.
I don't see it.
That's in Parshas Vayikra.
I have the
Ah,
same.
no b'nei Salem kol chelev shor kesel ez.
I have exactly the same confusion because this famous pasuk, mina bakar mina eder, I think is the pasuk. And how do you learn out that eder means sheep and goats, etc., etc.? It's not even mentioned here, and it seems that would be very logical. And it's used, in fact, by Rabbi Yishmael as an example of one of his ways of learning. And we're
Of the Davar Laman Minyanai. Wait, you mean the context one, Davar Laman Minyanai? I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the. So here we're holding that the Gemara doesn't want to say that the Rabbanan don't hold of Davar Laman Minyanai. They want to say that the Rabbanan agree. Davar Laman Minyanai means something that's learned from context. The Rabbanan agree that you can learn from context as well. Oh, you learn from context. So then why do we need Shor Kesef Eis? It's clear that it's only domesticated animals because we're talking about sacrifices, and those are the only ones that are brought as sacrifice. We have a different argument here. Again, all of this page was just explaining that Rabbi Yishmael says that if you eat the fats of an ox, a sheep, and a goat, you get malchus 3 times. So, and the Rabbanan say once. So what's the argument based on? Rabbi Yishmael Savra L'meidin. I have to adjust the wording here based on Rashi. We're going to skip some stuff. Rashi reads it like this: L'meidin lav mi lav, and yalfina lav mi karis. I'm sorry. L'meidin lav mi lav, lav mi karis. He says that we can learn a negative prohibition from a negative prohibition, and we can also learn a negative prohibition from what it says in context regarding karis, the punishment. In other words, the Torah says, "Do not." And the pasuk also said, the Torah also says, anyone that does gets such and such, gets kares. Now, what we're looking for is lashes. Rabbi Shmuel says you get lashes 3 times if someone eats these 3 things. So, what's the context that it says that it's all together? That all of them would be chayiv. That would be, it says by kares. So I'm learning the 3 different ones from the verse that it says by kares.
So the Chachamim need the 3 to teach you about Chalav Behema. And he says, I learned Chalav Behema from Karas. Because over there it says, Go Chalav Min HaBehema.
No, it's by the pasuk of kares. Very good.
It says
By the pasuk,
Behema.
it says v'nichrasu or v'nichras.
It says clearly
It says the word Behema. Aha,
So it
very
can't be
good.
Chaya. So he says,
Very
I don't
good.
need the limud of Rabbanan for all 3. Because
Aha.
I learned it already from
He learns it from kares, from the
Kares,
pasuk of
okay.
kares. So let me do this inside. It says lav mi mi kares. Now skip the parentheses.
Yeah.
V'Rabbanan lav mi lav yalfinan. I jumped. We saved the 4 lines here. Lav mi lav yalfinan. Lav mi kares la yalfinan. But we can't learn from kares. And by kares it says, like Reb Chaim is saying that, it says over there it says behema. The Rabbanan don't know. The Rabbanan don't know the
learn from the
prohibition of that the prohibition is only by an animal. So we all would already know that. I didn't learn it like that, but it makes sense. Okay. Hiba Yisema another pshat. We skipped these lines. They asked, and in Ger they don't say the yotzers. Lubavitch we don't say the yotzers either. But in Ger I think they cut out even other things. The whole, the davening takes so long. All in the machzor for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all of those things, it takes hours. But in Chabad we take it all out. We don't say it.
I don't know. I go to the back.
So in Ger, they don't say it either, but the problem is they printed it in the machzor and then they skip it. In Chabad it's not even in the machzor. So they asked the Ger Rebbe, why don't you take it out of the machzor? He says, I don't want to take the enjoyment that people have when they say, oh, we don't say this, we don't say this. Okay, Liba Yisema, if you want, you could say, Haina Tamayah de Rabbanan, the reason for the rabbis that say that there's only one Malchus, Kedamar le Rav Mari le Rav Zvid. Rav Mari said to Rav Zvid, what's the Dalid? Is quoting a Gemara Chulin. Elamayata al yad Chulin titzar. This is this famous Gemara. I don't know if you remember. We spoke about this. That the fat tail, should be prohibited. Why are we allowed to eat the fat tail? There's a problem because there's 2 types of fat in the animal. There's chelev and shuman. Chelev is forbidden and shuman is permissible. Chelev is the fat that would have gone on the altar if it would have been a sacrifice, and shuman does not go on the altar. Now, there's one problem. There's this wild card that there's fat tail goes on the altar, and nevertheless we're allowed to eat it. It's a problem. That's that the famous Eben Ezra, where the Tzeduki asks the Eben Ezra, how are you allowed to eat this? What are the rabbis doing? They're saying they're allowed to eat this, and Eben Ezra gives him an answer, which is not the correct answer. But the guy was so impressed with the answer, and he says, Moshe Emes, V'seirosei Emes, and Eben Ezra writes this. So anyway, over here, Rav Mari asks Zvid, why is the Aliyah permissible? It should be Asr. Amar lei, Alecha, Amar Kra. Regarding you, it says, Kol chelev shar v'kesev eiz, davar hashave b'shlashtan b'inan, b'leka. We need something that's equal by all of the animals. And since only by the sheep you have the fat tail, you don't have that tail by the other animals. So therefore, the law of chelev doesn't apply. It only applies to parts of animals that are on all the animals equally. So therefore, hilkach yasa shav kesevez lemishri alya dechulin hudiyasa. It's coming to tell me that we're permitting the fat tail on an animal that's not a sacrifice. Rabbi Shmuel Amalach. Rabbi Shmuel says, Im kein lemakra kol chelev shar v'kesef eiz shar v'kesef eiz lamali. I would have known that from shar and kesef, that the shar doesn't have the fat tail. Why does it have the extra eiz in there? The goat Shema min alachalik. It's coming to divide. To tell me that you get separate malchus. Amar Rab Chanina.
So he also says you could eat the chaylev.
He also says you can eat it. Yeah. Yeah, but he said I could have
So
understood
you
that
can
from
too.
two. Amar Rabbi Chanina. If you look up that Evan Ezer, you'll be like amazed. It's in Perek Hay in Vayikra, I think, or Perek Gimel in Vayikra, that first piece. I think
How does he get away with giving the wrong answer?
it's
A
unbelievable.
lot of times
It's unbelievable.
in the Gemara.
He says, what is his answer? His answer was that only fat that goes on the altar is permissible, is prohibited for us to eat. But all the other fat is fine, which is that's not really the correct answer.
The guys on Amaretz, he didn't know it.
Okay. Amar Rabbi Chanina. Moider Rabbi Shmuel in Karban. Rabbi Shmuel would agree. You see, we learned Rabbi Shmuel was talking about lashes. Comes along Rabbi Chanina and says, Rabbi Shmuel would agree that when it comes to the sacrifice, if he ate all three of those fats, are baltaiva, you hear? So he only has to bring one chatas. Ein mevi al chatas achas. It's a different prohibition. What's the difference between malchus and the chatas? If he does it on purpose or if he does it by mistake? If he does it by mistake, then he would only bring one chatas. If he does it on purpose, he gets lashes 3 times.
To get lashes, you need the Eily Basra for each one.
Also Edom Asra.
There's a big difference.
Right.
When he did it b'shegeg, he did it b'shegeg achas, in one frame of mind.
Right, but even then he did it where if it was different, if it was behelem different, if he forgot about it in 3 times, it would anyways be 3 malchus. The chiddush of Rabbi Shmuel is that it's 3 different prohibitions in the same forgetting. That's the chiddush of Rabbi Shmuel.
So he gets 9.
No, but over there it's not forgetting. Over there it's
he would
one.
get 9?
No,
So each
by
one
malchus
gets
it has
3.
to be done on purpose. So there's no forgetting by Rabbi Shmuel. It's only by the chatas that there's a forgetting. My time, but what's the reason for this? The leidami hadin lav darayas. Hadin lav darayas. This is not similar to the prohibition of the forbidden relations. Over there, each individual that the person's not allowed to live with, it says, each one it has do not. Each one has its own do not. Over here, it has one do not. Do not eat the fat of a ox, a sheep, and a goat. So because there's only one do not there, even though it divides it up, and the fat of, even though it divides it up, but nevertheless, it's not the same, and therefore, when it comes to chatas, it's only going to be one. Taner Rabbanan, v'asa achas v'asa heina. The pasuk says v'asa achas mehena by the korban chatas. If he does one of these sins, heina means these, but it says he does one, and it has these.
It's a different part of the Mishnah, right?
Is this in our Mishnah?
Chalev, Pokel Chalev comes after the errors that have skila.
Okay.
Right? It's a different, altogether
Right.
different.
Right.
It's I guess it's an error of Kenek. So
Chalev
skila.
is kares, right? Chalev is kares.
Yeah, but isn't this Mishnah divided up by
The order of the Mishnah?
punishments, right?
Could be.
The first ones are skila.
Uh-huh.
After that comes Kenek.
Could be.
So it's a different part of the Mishnah altogether.
But then it comes down to kares, chalev dam. Okay, so here we learn in the Braisa, it says if someone will do one of these, what does it mean one of these? L'chayev al kalachas v'achas. It means that sometimes a person is chayev for each one. Shemachal chalev. Let's say a person has 2 portions of chalev. 2 portions of chalev, and shem echad. It's one prohibition, but it's b'shnei halamas. But he forgot, and then he remembered, and then he forgot again. So chayev shtayim. He's chayev for each one. Shtei shemes behelem achas. Let's say the opposite. Let's say 2 different prohibitions, chalev and dam. Let's say. So, but he forgot once. That's also chayev shtayim. It's also chayev for each of them. Amalei Rami Bar Chama Rav Chisda. Rami Bar Chama says to his father-in-law Rav Chisda, Bishlem Hashem Echad B'Shnei Alames. I get it when you have one prohibition, but you forgot it's chayiv shtayim, mishum da'alamas mechalkim, because it divides it up. However, I said chaylev and dam. What we're talking about over here is two types of chaylev from different parts of the animal. Chaylev aklayas and chaylev shaladakin. Those are the two parts of it. He's asking, but let's say you have two types of chaylev, two different parts of the animal that have chaylev, and with one forgetting, you need to remember in middle and then forget to divide it up and to get punishment twice. So he responds, like it changes the whole story. He responds, he says, we're talking about that he ate chaylev of a leftover sacrifice. That was left over from a sacrifice. Over there you have two prohibitions. The mechayev mishum noisa mishum chaylev. Whoa. So he asks, Amalayim kein nechayev nami yasha mishum kodesh. But it's also holy. You're having benefit from something that's holy. What about the karban me'ilah? Nechayev nami mishum kodesh. There's a asham me'ilah that you have to bring. Elo Amar Rav Sheshes responds to this that it's different. Kein da'achal chaylev dehekdesh. It was not nicer. It was chaylev that was kodesh. Rabbi Yehudi, the Tanya achal chaylev nevela, achal chaylev mekdashin, chayiv shtayim. Someone eats chaylev nevela and chaylev mekdashin, chaylev of hekdesh. You chayiv two karbanas. Rabbi Yehuda Imer chaylev mekdashim like a shalish. Rabbi Yehuda says that you get chayiv 3 sacrifices here. What's the reason? Because you chayiv